Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We have a few people still joining in. Perfect. Thank you for attending this session of IMMERSECon, which is titled Virtual Reality in High School Language Classrooms, a Case Study. My name is Tricia, and I am the research manager at Immerse. I'll be moderating this discussion. And with me today, I have Dr. Jenny Robbins, who is a German teacher at the University High School in Urbana-Champaign, Illinois. Hillary Veitch, who is an ESL teacher at Rantoul Township High School in Rantoul, Illinois, and Jessica Briggs, who is a French teacher at Mahomet-Seymour High School in Mahomet, Illinois. So really quickly, before I turn it over to them, I do want to provide some context to this project and how they got involved with using VR for language learning. So in collaboration with Meta, Immerse has actually been working the past year and a half or so to distribute 500 headsets, so 500 Quest 2s, to 12 high schools located throughout Illinois, Texas, and California. And we've done this by partnering with 3 of our university research partners that I mentioned earlier at kind of our welcome kickoff: the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, the University of California at Santa Barbara, and the University of North Texas. And we partnered with these universities because we really wanted to have the biggest impact possible, right? We didn't want all these headsets necessarily going into one city. We wanted to really spread them throughout the country while also being able to provide support to the schools who were using them. So the way that we've set this up is each of these 3 universities has worked to find and partner with different high schools and community colleges in their area. And we actually have 4 high schools in the Illinois branch of this project, 3 of them being represented today by our panelists. So the main goals of this project are really to provide VR language learning to students who wouldn't traditionally be able to access it, and also start looking at what does VR language learning at a high school level, what does that look like? We're also really focused on training the teachers and the students to use VR and Immerse, specifically French, Spanish, ESL, and German teachers and students. And we currently have 10 schools in place, around 23 teachers, and around 1,200 students who are using these headsets in the project. So really, we're trying to evaluate, the feasibility and the challenges of using this equipment in high school settings. In our last keynote, Dr. Bonner alluded to all the challenges that we're still facing as a field. And so that's one of the things that we're trying to discover through this work is what actually needs to be done for high schools to be able to use these in their classes on a regular basis. And then we're also trying to conduct a large-scale research study measuring VR's impact on language learning, because a lot of the studies so far have been a lot smaller scale, just limited in terms of participant numbers and things like that. So as I said, we have 3 amazing speakers today. I'm going to turn it over to Jenny. And so she's going to tell you how she's been using VR at her school with her German students.
Thank you, Tricia, for that nice introduction. So the title of my talk today is Virtual Reality as an Asset for International Exchange Programs. A quick overview of what I'd like to talk about. First, I'll give you a small background of my background, and then I'll talk about the lessons learned from online and hybrid learning during COVID-19. Then I'll talk about VR as a tool for international exchange, how I'm using the VR headsets in the classroom generally right now, and then some future plans. So first of all, I teach at University of Illinois Laboratory High School. I teach levels 1 through 4 of German, in addition to some independent studies. I've had 15 years of English and German teaching experience, both at the secondary and at the university level, and have been at my position for nearly 5 years. I'm also the Heritage and Dual Language Program Coordinator at our school. So online and hybrid learning during COVID-19. Our school was online, as I'm sure many of yours were if you were teaching. We're online for a year and 3 months with a hybrid option the last semester or so. And this led to various things. First of all, missing key components for effective communication in the target language. So you know that even though you're saying the words, your body language, the normal back and forth dialogue of an in-person class, things are just lacking, right? When you're teaching online, teaching over Zoom. There's also a general lack of social and emotional connection to classmates. Even though we had our screens on in German class for that entire time, that social and emotional connection is still not quite as there as it would be if you were in the classroom. And then we were all in a continual state of stress due to the uncertainty and the circumstances. And I know that in particular, I had my 1-year-old and 4-year-old at home while teaching full time. It was just too much. So everyone was fatigued, and then there was just this general online fatigue in general for that time. So when Dr. Thrasher came and asked if I'd like to have VR in the classroom in order to connect with my students, I was not ready. I was not ready to use any technology in the classroom at all, other than just being in the room with my students. So I really wasn't ready. But after a very deep breath, I thought about it and I reflected. And I thought about the online and hybrid teaching experience that I did have. Here's a picture from the hybrid teaching experience in my classroom here as well, right? Teaching half students in, half out. And I thought about it and I thought, we've honed a new skill. We teachers, we are all now experts at teaching on Zoom, whether we like it or not. And this new skill led to a new type of collaboration for us. And that new collaboration was creating an online sister school program at our school. And we were able to converse with students before placing them. So we had 2 years actually that we met every other week. It was early in the morning for us, later for them in Germany, in Bremen at Oberschule in den Sandwellen. And after those 2 years, we finally were able to visit them in person in Bremen last summer in June of 2023. And then they came to us in October this last year. And it was during this time that we were able to give them 7 of our headsets. We did a training with everybody together. We practiced with the Immerse platform, and it was a lot of fun. And really international exchange when 2 different groups of students are in 2 different places anyway. I can truly imagine this being a place for VR because you're not going to be in the same room. And VR allows for a little bit of that physical interaction that you wouldn't have, when you were over Zoom on a flat screen. So we're going to pilot a VR exchange in the fall of 2024. And through the use of VR, it is my hope that students will be able to have the opportunity to interact with one another prior to their home stays in a more meaningful way. As I said before, just that flat screen, they tend to get a little shy, right, when talking to each other over Zoom. But I imagine if you're in the commons, for example, in Immerse, there's a place where you can shoot arrows, where you can do Pictionary, you can shoot a basketball. If you take your focus off of each other and you start to interact with the activity that you're doing, that's when the magic happens. And that's when you start to create these friendships, right? The other thing that I hope that they will be able to do is be able to do more focused learning, utilizing different modules, a language learning station simultaneously. That's a nice thing with Immerse as well. You can pop them into different locations. They can all do their activity, and then you can toggle them and bring them back to you when you so desire, which is nice function. And then through this, they can create friendships by sharing these experiences together, going back to what I was talking about before. And I think that this is something that's very doable with today's generation because it's part of their culture, this digital gaming, right? They're used to this anyway, so why not go ahead and use it in the language classroom? As far as what I am doing for general VR lessons in the classroom right now, well, I'm practicing for the pilot exchange in the fall by employing the headsets on a more regular basis as a tool in the classroom. And just a couple of weeks ago, I was able to take students on a virtual tour from Strasbourg to Berlin in my level 3 German class. Now, their theme for the entire year is backpacking throughout Europe. So when they could just look around them on the observation deck in the software, that was enough excitement already just to be able to be there and to see where they were going. And one of the things I really wasn't counting on, but have experiences that I've noticed high engagement, especially from students motivated by technology. So we all know as teachers that you've got your kids who thrive when they have an art project. You have your kids who thrive when there's a book report, or even the ones that like the grammar exercises, right? But when you offer something with technology, you see a couple more that you don't usually see that have that spark. So using it as a tool at the ready is really a nice extra way to be able to reach more people in the classroom. As far as my future plans are concerned, oh, this is my daughter, by the way. This is my 8-year-old, and my VR skills are not as good as hers. She needed about 5 to 10 minutes to figure it out. Just a side note there. Anyway, I intend to continue to use headsets as a regular tool in German levels 1 through 4. They're sitting in the back of my classroom, so we can just pop them on when we need to. I want to plan and document interactive VR exchange lessons for our bi-monthly visits with Oberschule in den Zahnwehen, starting in the fall, in preparation for our next trip in 2025. I want to obtain regular feedback from students on how incorporating the technology is affecting their learning experience and ability to connect with students abroad, and create German-specific lesson plans to share, because I know as of right now, there's Japanese and there's Spanish and there's French, but there's a lack of German. Another thing I'd like to do would be to collaborate with the American Association of Teachers of German and the Goethe Institute on different PD initiatives implementing the VR technology, and finally build connections with German programs looking for ways to actively supplement each other with courses, maybe places in more rural area that needs a little bit more support. How can you make it interactive with people that are in different locations? So I think the function that I've really found recently that I'm excited about are bringing people from different locations together. So, Dankeschön. Thank you very much, and I'll leave it to Hillary.
All right, 1 second. Perfect. Oh, let me make sure I'm sharing my audio. Sorry. There we go. Share sound. Awesome. Everyone can see me, I assume. Hope so. Just let me know otherwise. Awesome. I'm Hillary Veitch. I teach English as a second language, Rantoul Township High School. Kind of a rural town, but very, very diverse population. This year, I mostly teach newcomer ESL classes, which means I teach students who are brand new to the country, a lot of times also brand new to an education system in general. So the VR process was a little bit different than what Jenny might have explained. We started very simple. Here are some of my student backgrounds that I work with. Students from the Dominican Republic, Colombia, Mexico, Honduras. You can see a lot of Hispanic and Latino influence. Recently, we've had an influx of students from Ghana. So our student demographics are very quickly changing, and I can expect that will continue to kind of flow in as well. And then again, the different language backgrounds that I work with. Chu is indigenous language of Guatemala. It's only a spoken language. Same with Kankobal is a different language also spoken in Guatemala. Twi is a dialect spoken in Ghana. And then, of course, a lot of Spanish speakers. And again, also those students who speak Chu or Kankobal as a first language. Spanish is actually a second language for them as well. So English would also be maybe their third or even fourth language that they're learning. My interest in VR, I am very tech savvy. I have several headsets. I have a wired set on my computer at home. I have a Quest that I use. So I was very excited when Dr. Thrasher approached me about this opportunity. We actually had some grad school classes together at the U of I. So I'm very excited to be a part of that and share this with my students. So the main purpose that I wanted to get out of this starting was really just to have my students practice some of those basic English language skills in realistic scenarios. Like I said, a lot of them come from very diverse backgrounds. It's their first time in the United States. So being able to practice in a controlled setting in a VR environment, I thought would be very great for them as a kind of a starting point. Again, in general, bringing gamification. I know we're already pressed on time. I'll zoom through this. What we mostly focused on were the AI chatbots. We were working with a graduate student, Uli, shout out if you're here watching. So we kind of focused on utilizing the chatbots, and we'll see how that goes. Some of the general feedback, I have a short video I'll play just a clip of where you can see an example of a student talking with one of the AI chatbots. Obviously, like I said, it's really great for practicing the conversations. I love that Immerse continues to add more scenarios and environments that students can practice and the different levels that they can do that. I would say after implementing this with newcomers, I would say right now, I know Immerse continues to develop. Right now, the AI bots as they are very well suited for maybe higher level proficiency students in their target language. Maybe if you're on the B or C level, whereas my students, very, very low from the get-go. What was also helpful, my students are really not familiar with technology and using technology in education. So getting them used to using Chromebooks, when they first came here was a challenge. But alternatively, using Immerse on the desktop version was really helpful for some of those students who were just brand new to using the technology and maybe had a harder time assimilating with the headsets. There's a quick picture. You can see some of our students. I just want to show just a short video. In this video, I just want to highlight one of my newcomer students. He's adorable. He brand new to using technology. You'll see him just kind of exploring the different features of the chatbot, using hints, and just kind of figuring things out on his own and asking a little question for help here and there. I won't play too long, I promise. Hopefully it'll load.
I like you like conexión. Nuestra hamburguesa con es deliciosa. ¿Te gustaría hacer una hamburguesa con queso?
You can see he's kind of using the advice. I love that they can use the features in their native language, but obviously still practice, their second language. And then you'll see him kind of try to formulate a response here. Maybe.
Miss, ¿cómo se dice quiero? I want some tomato. I want tomato.
And ketchup.
Miss, no voy a cancelar. I want tomato and ketchup. And ketchup y...
There you go. Perfect.
¿Así, Miss?
Perfect. Yeah.
All right. Perfect. That's pretty much all I got. We love the AI bots. I'm looking forward to utilizing a lot of the different features in the future as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, give me one moment, get my screen up here. All right, are we good? Yeah. All right, bonjour tout le monde. Hello, I'm Jessica Briggs. I am a French teacher at Mahomet-Seymour High School. We have approximately 1,000 students in our high school. I've been here for 15 years and another placement for about 10 years prior to that. I teach French to levels 2 through AP. So I have novice learners through floating in and out of the different intermediate levels. So my first thing is, why did we choose as a department? So our whole department, French and Spanish teachers, are using the VR headsets. We were just approached with the opportunity. We discussed it as a department, went to our school board, got it approved, and went through the training. And we had not all of the teachers are using it. We had some brand new teachers to the school and they thought they had enough on their plates. So they opted out, but most of the veteran teachers are using the AI and the VR headsets. We thought it would be a great way we were just very curious about it in the first place, and thought it would be a change of pace, kind of like Jenny alluded to, something different than being on a screen, just a change of pace for the students and to see what it could do for them. We also were just encouraged by the more interactive way of learning, kind of going to the students what they know. They all want to be on their digital devices anyway. So there's a way for them to bring it into the classroom and learn with it. And we were also very encouraged when we were trained with the variety and types of activities that we could do with the students at all the levels using the VR. So in my upper levels, they've done the AI conversation practice. They were kind of just playing with it more or less, seeing what they could do, what they could come up with. I will say that it was good for them because it's less rehearsed. They didn't know what was coming at them. And so they could really rely on what they know to try and communicate with that AI. I like that it was individualized to the student. Again, it's based on what they say, right? They're asked a question and then they have to respond. So it's individualized to every student. One thing we did have difficulty with was picking up on the recording. It kind of felt like there were maybe too many at once or picking up some sounds. So I think we're trying to work through that for future. In my lower levels and middle levels, I used the VR headsets as station work, mostly as a review, getting ready for their assessment, primarily for vocabulary practice. So my level 2 kids, they were working on some animal things. We were talking some about biodiversity things. And so we went to the zoo and they had to identify and describe different animals from the vocabulary that they had been working on in class. I have some screenshots of those coming up here. And then at level 4 class, they've been working on some medieval times, some castle things. And so we went to the Great Hall and they had to find different items in the Great Hall. They had to determine, would this particular thing be in this type of castle? And then we were using the imperfect to talk about past events. So they had an activity where they had to write, I'll show you a screenshot here in a moment, of things that happened during their time in the Great Hall or during the time in the past. So you can see here's the zoo. And on the left side, that was just basically identifying various animals. I will say a downfall was there was somewhat limitation to what animals were there, but that's okay. So they were just identifying the animals. And then over on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see kind of on that prompt that they had to find a certain kind of animal. Trouver un animal qui a, find an animal with paws. And so they had to go around the zoo and place that sticker or find the animal with the paws. And then here is an image in the Great Hall. So I had like different people and so this is Le Seigneur, and he used to eat. So then they took this marker over here on the right-hand side of the board, and they could write on the board what they ate. And then after that, they would go around the castle and find an item of something that they would have eaten. So for example, they would maybe go find an apple versus a hamburger and stick it on the board. And then with my freshman class, they were doing some research and some work with monuments in Paris. So they went to the observation deck. We brought in some Google Earth view images of places in Paris. And these two girls were doing it on their Chromebook, while others were doing it with the VRs. That's just a personal option. Some of the students are not comfortable closed in, so that is a great option that they can do this on their devices, on their Chromebooks as well. Then they had to recall the information that they previously learned. We had a kind of a question answer session about the different monuments. What did they remember about its location, or some facts about it? And this is our little class elf we had. He participated in some VR activities with us that day. So it's the positives that I've had in my class. I've noticed it's easier to work with smaller groups, to be able to sit with them and work and monitor them within the app. It's convenient if you have a smaller space also to have smaller groups. And again, the desktop version for those that are not able or choose not to use a headset was a wonderful thing. The challenges that I personally have come across, if you're doing station work, make sure that the students are very well aware of what they need to do and probably have something that they're responsible for. In some of my bigger classes, it was a bit of a challenge making sure that they were on task and doing what they were supposed to be doing. The timing to switch the groups and reset everyone back up was also a bit of a challenge. It got better as we went through it more frequently, but I would say just if you're doing in stations, make sure you allow ample time for that switching and setup. And here, I can't see that last one, sorry.
It says personally determining placement within a unit.
Oh, yes.
You can see it.
Sorry. Thank you. I was covering up and I couldn't remember what I wrote. Thank you. So for me, I struggle a little bit, like, where can we fit the VR in? You know, I've got units that I've been working on, but where's an optimal place to put that VR activity in there? So there's advantages at the beginning, there's advantages at the end, there's advantages in the middle. So I think you just have to determine what's the best placement for you. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Hillary, Jenny, and Jessica, for sharing. I think it's really helpful for people to see all the different examples and the types of things you can do with VR, and you've all taken a pretty different approach. Jenny, I see you addressed the one question in the chat, which is perfect. We're actually right at time, so we will stop there so we can set up for the next presentation. But if you have questions, we will be sending out an email, after the conference, sharing resources. And if the teachers are okay with it, I'm happy to share their emails if you want to reach out and ask them for any questions you may have.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. And our next talk will be hearing from Immerse's product team about how they actually go through the process of designing these experiences. So we'll see you all there in just a few minutes.